It's been 10 years since episode 5, and Viserys is still alive. And shockingly, no one has invented the toupee. They say necessity is the mother of all invention, and I see a necessity. Could somebody at least cut his hair? I can't believe they let him walk around like that. Anyway, it's so Viserys. Anyway, he actually looks a little like Vhagar, the oldest and biggest living dragon, a female dragon who comes out of retirement for her biggest fan, Laena, and plays a tragic role in this episode. What a scene! We will talk about it later in this breakdown. But first, what do you think of the new actors, including Laena? I love Laena. Love Laena! Too bad she didn't stick around. But I do have to say, I find it kind of offensive that the female and gay characters keep getting swapped out with new actors as the characters age up, but the straight male actors have been around since day one. Like, couldn't Matt Smith have just come in now as well? I mean, I know he's done an incredible job, but, you know, who's to say another younger actor couldn't have? And, like to see the new actresses next to Criston Cole was, like, kind of really offensive. Anyway, I think Olivia Cooke is fabulous and does a great job building on what Emily Carey established in the first 5 episodes. And sorry, Theo Nate, but John McMillan is a huge improvement, giving Laenor a lot more agency and personality. I think that he's fantastic. Really, really good. As for Emma Darcy, this was the one everyone was concerned about because Millie Alcock has made such a strong impression. And I have to say that while Darcy does a great job, they have a much, Emma Darcy uses the they, them pronouns. Emma Darcy has a very different vibe from Millie Alcock to the point where it feels like an entirely, this just feels like an entirely new character. Thankfully, Darcy is introduced with an amazing opening scene. They and McMillan, as literally right after giving childbirth, Rhaenyra is forced to present her baby to the queen, and for good reason, doesn't want to let that baby out of her sight. So she's got to go. Right after, literally, I thought maybe it was a long take, but they cut. I was like, the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, is this a long take? And it was for a good chunk, but then they blinked. I wish the whole thing had been a long take. That would have been incredible. But anyway, it was really, I think, really incredible to see Rhaenyra and Laenor having to go through the niceties of court. I loved when Laenor smiled at that one person. It was so great. Who has not been there? While Rhaenyra is literally bleeding all over the floor. I mean, we're talking peak Game of Thrones here. Fantastic. And I do think it was a very interesting choice to open this episode with Rhaenyra 10 years later doing the very thing that she swore she would never do and feared, and that's being held prisoner in the Red Keep while squeezing out heirs. But surprise, surprise, turns out she loves those kids. Her reaction to her new baby, I thought was quite moving, and I thought that was just really wonderful. They always say, wait until it's yours, and I thought that was incredible. She loves her children far more than Alicent. However, that could be her downfall because Alicent sees her children just as more pieces on the board for the Game of Thrones and so isn't nearly as attached. But these children, I think, are a weak spot for Rhaenyra, which makes her a bit like her father because she's, of course, his weakness. And I thought it was sweet that they're still getting along. I thought that was really, really cute. I was like, father-daughter day. I hope you're not father-daughter day in the dungeon sometime. All right, so what's this week's episode about? Well, basically, everyone is just waiting for Viserys to die, and it's taking a bit longer than anticipated. He's still alive. I can't believe it. And he looks like he might live for a lot longer. This is the last episode that I've seen in advance, so it's all new territory. I mean, I know kind of what happened because it's based on a series of books, but, as for the show, we're all entering new territory here. So let's see what happens to Viserys. I've grown attached to that guy. So in this Game of Thrones, everybody else is continuously rearranging their pieces on the board and producing new pieces, aka babies. So they're in the best position possible for when he does die. Why doesn't he just retire? And again, I keep saying this. Why doesn't he just retire and ensure that Rhaenyra is the heir, right? Well, my guess is that because when it comes to action, Viserys is going to be indecisive to the end. And while he is really firm in his command, he doesn't want to actually make it. And I think he doesn't deal very well with conflict, as we know. We've been with him for a while. And I think he doesn't want to deal with the fallout of his decision. So that's probably it too. He's like, oh yeah, it's going to happen, but I don't want to see what the result is. Good luck, everybody. Peace out. So I think, I think that he comes across as being very noble for what he's doing for his daughter, but it's actually still, I think, pretty cowardly because, he's not ensuring it. So as everyone grows listless, 10 years is a very long time to be waiting, right? You're to be waiting at the start line for your next move. So they grow careless. Oh, so careless this episode. And then also, of course, we learn a lot about dragons. And let's start with the dragons. Dragons. So many dragons this episode. So lots of kids running around now. So that means kid dragons. So creepy. I loved it. Perfect. A cross between a dinosaur and a bat. And it was mesmerizing. I loved that. The VFX on Lucerys' dragon, Rhaenyra's second born, Arax, that's the name of the dragon. Those VFX are incredible. I saw them on my screener like a couple of weeks ago and they looked pretty good, but they looked really good now. I mean, that dragon was sweating. I loved it. Or had like that lizard glistening on him. But anyway, we got our own medieval version of Jurassic Park right down to the goat, a la flambe. The T-Rex is like, nice move. I have to eat mine raw. All right, so why can only some people control dragons? I got you. I looked it up. I'm ready to explain it, and it's fascinating. All right, so it was the ancient great city of Valeria, the one that Viserys is building an homage to in his room. He's so cute playing with his toys, but he's also the king. But anyway, Valeria is who first learned to control dragons, creating a bond between man and dragon via magic. The magic that was practiced in that once great city. The magic that some say ultimately led to the city's downfall. And when the city fell, few houses survived, two of them being the Targaryens and the Velaryons, who both sport the white hair that the people of Valeria were known for. That's where the white hair comes from. Therefore, and that's why they're always like, we're the oldest house. No, we're the oldest house. Let's be friends as the two oldest houses together, but not really friends, etc. So therefore, it's like... they're the blue bloods of Game of Thrones. So it's only people with Targaryen or Velaryon blood, and you can get it from just one parent and it will still work. But I wonder if you get it from both parents, is your bond even stronger? But you need that blood to have a chance at even forming a bond with a dragon. Now, how is that bond formed? Well, and by the way, you'll note that the dragons only respond to High Valyrian, which was the language of Valeria. I don't know how the new baby dragons know it. I guess it's, chalk that up to magic. All right, so magic, a writer's best friend. All right, so this is why a baby with Targaryen or Velaryon blood gets a dragon egg at birth. You saw that they picked one out for the new baby, for Rhaenyra. And the bond hopefully starts to build until that egg hatches. And voila, you've got your dragon. But sometimes the egg doesn't hatch, like with Rhaena. Daemon and Laena's second daughter. But that's okay. You can still claim a dragon later on, just like Laena did with Vhagar, but it takes a very strong will to do that, a particularly strong will to go get your own damn dragon. All right, so over time, the bond is strengthened, as they talk about here on this episode, and eventually your dragon will only respond to your commands, which is pretty sweet. It's like, wow, talk about getting the keys to a car. Now, Aemond doesn't have a dragon either. That's Alicent and Viserys' second son, as his brother and cousins cruelly mock. But apparently, there's a lot of chow down there in that dragon cave. I'm like, what other animals you got down there for eating? But apparently, there are no spare dragons right now because Aemond goes down to check. But even if they were, he clearly doesn't right now have the will to claim a dragon for his own. I'm not going to tell you what happens. I looked it up, but let's just say he doesn't have to worry about it too much. All right, so speaking of children, now let's talk about how careless everyone's being. I know Laenor has different appetites, but for the sake of his family's future, his family's safety, and his house's future, couldn't he choke down just one meal, right? He said before he experimented, so he has tried it. I'd be like, you got to have one legit kid, Laenor. You have to. Because I agree with Alicent, it's not just careless, but also foolish and arrogant for Rhaenyra to have all three of her children be bastards, and not one of them have the white hair that both Laenor and Rhaenyra have, and of course both their houses are known for. But you know what? Alicent doesn't have white hair. She's not of either of those houses, yet all her children with Viserys have white hair, the white hair of a Targaryen. Rhaenyra just can't catch a break. And this isn't just bad for Rhaenyra and Laenor, but also Viserys, as, looking the other way, he looks either like a father playing favorites, or a fool, or both. It's bad. All those options are bad. But Rhaenyra's children being bastards is so bad. Even her own child knows it's a problem to be a bastard. That's how poorly kept the secret is. Even the kids know. They're like, we're bastards, aren't we? She's like, we have other problems. That's actually not one of your biggest problems. But anyway, I did like the ye old version of we can keep in touch. Like, we'll exchange ravens. It'll be fun. You're like, it's not going to work out. And it does not. But anyway, it threatens her claim to the throne. For not only has she broken the rules, but she has not been able, she's chosen not to produce any, she and Laenor have chosen not to produce any legitimate heirs. Her line is broken. And before she complains that it's because she's a woman, guys also have a very hard time getting their bastards to be legitimate. I mean, male bastards do have a claim to the throne, but it's not easy. It's very hard for any bastard. Now back to Laenor. I would think that even though that he's gay, a part of him still might want a child. I mean, there was no IVF back then, so his only option is to do it the natural way. And even if he doesn't want a child for emotional reasons, since in Game of Thrones, houses and bloodlines are so important, not only, from a sense of pride, but also for survival, you would think that he would just try to have a child anyway. One could argue maybe he's also never gotten over Joffrey's brutal murder, and he does name his latest son after Joffrey. But his third son, I guess better late than never. I mean, he just doesn't seem that broken up about it. Maybe he's dealing with it in complex ways. That's totally possible, but the show isn't making that clear. He's even found a new lover, Carl with a Q. And the show depicts him, quite frankly, I thought of this while he was talking about what he'd rather be doing. I was like, so basically you'd rather be on Our Flag Means Death. And I think Our Flag Means Death would be happy to have him. John McMillan, as I said, is fantastic in this role. Leaps off the screen. He's great. Bottom line, I think Rhaenyra and Laenor are a true team, but one half of that team has absolutely no ambition, no interest in playing the Game of Thrones. So when they end up at Dragonstone at the end of the episode, Rhaenyra is clearly doing all the work herself, dragging that whole huge family and its entourage behind her. Just like at the beginning of the episode when she had to drag herself to go see the queen right after childbirth. It's the exact same thing. She's like, she's just gonna will it. Good for Rhaenyra in that regard, but she's causing a lot of her own problems. Now, why did Alicent want to see that baby right away? I believe to make sure he was indeed a bastard and not a genuine heir to the throne. And much to her relief, he's not. When she says to Laenor, sooner or later you might get one that actually looks like you, that's a burn from the books, an actual line from the books. Alicent has certainly become much more sure of herself and has gained some power. She now sits on the small council, as does Rhaenyra, no longer the cupbearer, women on the council. A small victory for Viserys, who still really feels bad over what happened to his first wife. And he still has a horrible rat problem, by the way. But while they both sit on the council, these two women, Alicent seems to advise her husband as much as the Hand Lord Strong. Shades of her own father, who she wishes would return as the Hand. More on that in a moment. Alicent is still wearing green. She's like, a whole wardrobe of green. And she tore down those orgy tapestries in her room, which I thought was fantastic. She's like, get these down out of here. I fulfilled my duty. I had 3 kids. And makes it no secret on that note that she's not at all attracted to her husband or that she even respects him. But she still goes through the motions because Alicent still plays by the rules, darn it. And Rhaenyra still doesn't play by the rules, which vexes Alicent so. But while Alicent has become certainly a more skilled player in the Game of Thrones, trying also to teach her children how to play, Aegon in the window frame, not only shades of Homelander, but also shades of Tommen, although Tommen was in that window for a different reason. Aegon, by the way, seems so much more like a Lannister than a Targaryen, although some of his line delivery this week was incredible. This teenage actor did quite a good job. Anyway, Alicent is still not a very strong player overall, not only because she's doing a horrible job teaching her children how to play, but some of her own pieces are moving on their own on the board. First up, Sir Criston Cole. Last week, some of you came to his defense saying that he was just trying to still protect Rhaenyra as her protector from scandal and blackmail from Joffrey. But it's pretty clear he's just gone full Fatal Attraction this week. I mean, I think it's incredible. Well, last week I was sympathetic a little bit to Criston Cole last week because I thought his story had nuance. But this week, now that the fairy tale is dead to him, he's just nuts. I mean, for him to pick on small children who are totally innocent, I think that's indefensible. It's been 10 years, man. Get over it. Have some self-respect. And yet, so also I have to say, he's so difficult and so obvious about it. I can't believe he still has yet to have an accident. I think he should have had an accident a long time ago. Rhaenyra really is her father's daughter, a sap. But Harwin Strong is also to blame for this cluster F, the true father of Rhaenyra's children, who for some reason insists on meddling in their training in front of everybody. Why doesn't he privately coach them later and just have them show up to the next lesson miraculously improved? Wow, you've gotten much better. Be like, I guess, Sir Criston Cole, your teaching's just that good. When I sleep on it, the lessons seep in. Obviously. But in defending his secret children from Criston Cole's cruelty publicly, a lot of testosterone on that dirt that day. It's no longer a secret that they're his children, endangering not just them and Rhaenyra, but Harwin's own house, House Strong. I don't know why his father didn't take him aside a long time ago and say, you dummy, what the heck are you getting out of all this? And also, it's been 10 years this has been going on. Who has been looking after House Strong all this time? So Lord Strong tries to resign to protect the king. He truly is a great hand. He's even willing to take himself out to protect the king. But he can't because Viserys is like, oh yeah, well, I need the exact reason why you're quitting. And Alicent is like, yes, tell him. Confirm what I keep trying to tell him. But Lord Strong won't do it. Because it didn't work out so well for Otto Hightower. When Alicent was like, my dad would have told him the truth, I was like, oh, your dad got fired and banished for doing that, so I don't know why you think that's a good move. But Larys Strong, Lord Strong's other son, the Queen's other piece on the board, is like, hello, opportunity. So because of Criston Cole's actions, Lord Strong takes a short leave because he can't resign, so he says, let me just take my son back, my other son, back to my home, because, Harwin's now banished, so let him at least take over my house, and I'd like to help him. I'd like to get him started. So Larys actually has his own father and brother killed. It was so sad to see Harwin trying to save his father, who was locked in his room with the fire raging around them, and then the ceiling caved in. That was so sad. I actually felt very bad for Harwin. Harwin did get nothing out of this. Poor Harwin. Truly in love, I guess. And Larys also burned down his own ancestral home, Harrenhal, which of course we saw plenty of times in the future in Game of Thrones, so I guess they had insurance. Larys argues that children are actually a weakness, but in this case, parents as well, because they make us do things that are not in our best interest. But it's really love that he's talking about, which is also something that Larys doesn't have. But Larys is a free agent, and he doesn't need a team, aka a house, because he's playing the Game of Thrones by a different set of rules. He's the Joker. He's the Joker card. Now, great exchange, by the way, when Alicent says, I did not wish for this. And Larys replies, I feel certain you will reward me when the time is right. And I'm like, I think she will too, because, you don't want to turn your back on Larys. Now, Larys' new goon squad, who would probably visit Alicent in the night as well, saved from death row for the price of their loyalty and their tongues to ensure that loyalty so they don't talk. I believe the B symbol that Larys takes for himself and his squad, hashtag squad goals, comes from a line in the books about his words being sweet like honey, yet really poison. And also they sting. I don't really think a B works, but every cool club needs a logo. That shot of them waiting in the woods with their cloaks, that was pretty cool. So again, Alicent is playing the game, but is having a hard time keeping her people in line. Although thankfully it seems Daddy Hightower will be back next week. Again, I don't know for sure, but we've seen Rhys Ifans in set photos with Olivia Cooke, so he's returning. She needs some more lessons on how to play this Game of Thrones. But at least she has the sense to reject Rhaenyra's defensive maneuver. Rhaenyra, cornered, suggests to try and make peace with Alicent that Rhaenyra's firstborn, who is, definitely going to inherit the throne from her, although look how long it's taking for her to get the throne herself. But anyway, she says, why doesn't my oldest marry your one daughter? which is also her stepsister, Viserys. It's an incestual family. It's nuts. But anyway, she's like, if they get married, it would ensure that your daughter, Alicent, would go on to be queen consort when my son takes over from me. Although, come to think of it, that's what Alicent is. And she's like, being queen consort ain't no picnic. I would like one of my children to actually rule. Now, Viserys, of course, loves the idea because he doesn't like conflict. So he's like, great, I love it. But Alicent knows she can probably get Rhaenyra's little bastard disqualified. So she's like, I ain't giving him a stamp of approval by letting him marry my daughter. And again, as I said, it occurs to me while I talk to you right now that she probably doesn't want the same fate for her daughter as she has for herself. Although her daughter's fate is so awful, she maybe should have taken that deal. We'll see it when it happens, because, this is, again, based on a set of books. All right, so what's up with Daemon? Yeah, Daemon's still around. By the way, I thought it was nice. I mean, as some of you have said, it's weird that we're rooting for an uncle and a niece to get together. But they showed that Rhaenyra and Daemon still think of each other, with Rhaenyra still using that secret passage from their date night. He's got to cross her mind when she goes in there. And Laena admitting to Daemon she knows she wasn't his first choice for a wife, which is ridiculous because Nana Blondell is amazing. Her agent should totally send this screenshot to Kevin Feige for Storm. I also thought her accent was fantastic. She was great. I was so sad that she only lasted a single episode. I'm glad, though, that she finally got to ride Vhagar. Although Vhagar is so big, she's really hard to see in the sky. It's like Laena is riding an Airbus versus a fighter jet. Although Laena and Vhagar did make Daemon and Caraxes fly through their fire burp, which I guess was pretty cool. And what do you know? Daemon's a girl dad, but he wouldn't be Daemon if he wasn't a jerk to one of them. Daemon has been hiding out with his family in Pentos, long mentioned in Game of Thrones. It's where Daenerys starts season 1, and Tyrion had convinced Jaime and Cersei to flee to Pentos, but they were killed before they could escape the Red Keep in the very final episode. Pentos wants to keep Daemon and his dragons for protection and is willing to give him land and riches for the privilege. It's the age-old story, though, basically. Daemon is enjoying country life while his wife wants to go back to the city. But truth is also, while I do think Daemon loves his new family, he was willing to have a family this time. And I think because of some of the choices that he makes that we'll discuss in a moment, I think he does care quite a bit for Laena. I think what's really bothering him is that he's haunted by what could have been. He is now the king or king consort who never was. And he's not taking it well. Like a lot of guys, he just wants to go hide in his history books. He just wants to go sit and read history books all day. But then as fate would have it, not only is he finally about to have a son, but just like Viserys, he is told he must make that horrible choice between, a horrible death for his wife or in the hopes, the slim chance of saving the son. But unlike Viserys, he makes the other decision. He can't do that to Laena, which is interesting because he could bash in the head of his first wife. Anyway, in a scene that brought a tear to my eye, I thought it was very moving both times that I watched it. Laena, refusing to die in childbirth, gets the dragon rider's death that she'd always dreamed of and commands a reluctant Vhagar to burn her alive. Powerful stuff. Incredibly well done. Really good. Hats off to Nana Blondell. Hats off to the VFX team who handled Vhagar. And hats off to the writing and the directing. It was amazing. Even Daemon was moved, her death affecting him deeply. And while he doesn't know what to say to their children, maybe this will jolt him out of his depression. Plus, he's single again, and now so is Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is his daughter. These names are also similar, and sometimes they name people after each other. All right, so anyway, it goes Rhaenys, Rhaenyra, and now Rhaena. All right, so we'll all see what happens next week. As I told you, I haven't seen next week's episode in advance, so I'm excited for the next chapter. What did you think of House of the Dragon episode 6? And what did you think of all the new actors? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.